Alright, so today we will be diving headfirst into the Haikyuu manga and going over the first match after the anime, which is Fukurodani versus Mujinazaka, and this sure is a crazy one, so be sure to stick to the end to not miss anything. But anyway, if you like this type of content, then be sure to leave a like and hype the video. And with that, let's dive right into it. Alright, so we get right into it as we see the Fukurodani players starting to get onto the court. After that, we see Mujinazaka's player Wakatsu Kiryu on the left of them as he closes his eyes and calls out to Bokuto in his head. He thinks that the way he was talking earlier makes it sound like he is getting ready to steamroll them, but suddenly Kiryu gets a realization as he thinks that just maybe that was on purpose. He wonders to himself if he got all like that just as an act. Maybe it was some mind game, and that was him being all condescending, coming over here and hoping to get them shook up before the game even starts. Just then, his teammate Usuri comes by and calls out to him and asks him if he has something weighing on his mind. However, Kiryu snaps back to reality right away and tells him that he isn't worried about anything while looking really worried, so it doesn't work that well. However, Usuri tells him that it's right and that there is nothing to worry about, as today, just like every other day, he is at his best. Kiryu tells him that he doesn't need to tell him twice, and with that, we also see a quick panel of who looks to be Akaashi. Anyway, after that, the game between Itachiyama and Tamamine ends with Itachiyama winning, and with that, Bokuto flies up and screams that it's their time. The commentators then say, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the boys' quarter-final round of Day 3 here at the National Spring Tournament." Tokyo's second representative, Fukurodani, made the top 8 at this past Inter-High, while their opponent, Iota's representative, Mujinazaka High School, went all the way to the top 4 of that tournament, saying that they will be getting a clash of powerhouses this game. Continuing, as they explain that both teams boast some of the top aces in the nation, as Fukurodani has Kotaro Bokuto and Mujinazaka has Wakatsu Kiryu. It seems like this game will treat them to a monumental battle between aces. Sadly, their yapping is not done in the slightest, and they say that Kiryu, once honored as the top hitter in the nation in middle school, has rightfully garnered much attention this tournament. On the other side of the net is Fukurodani's Bokuto, who is still known mostly as a streaky hitter, but during his earlier round 3 game, he looked to be in extremely good form, and when he's playing well, he can be very explosive, explaining that this will be a great game to watch. And on top of that, Mujinazaka is also a team with exceptional serving. Fukurodani will have to bring their A-game when it comes to serve receives. After that, we head into Bokuto's brain as he talks to Kiryu, saying that Bokuto is one of the top 5 hitters in the entire nation and that he's a good one to practice against. Akaashi, however, just tells him that he's not good enough to be in the top 3, barely, and Kiryu then tells him to get over it. After that, we head back to Bokuto, who starts to laugh pretty creepily as he thinks of top 5 of 5 and top 3 of 5, thinking that it's way too many as he looks lost. Everyone else just starts to look at him super confused, but Bokuto then takes his hand up and says that he is going to be the top of 1 of 1, which does sound super cool, but the crowd and spectators seem to be completely lost. Konoha asks what he is talking about, and Sarukui says that he is talking in his own language. We then see Washio telling them that he probably just likes the ring of the phrase top number of number, while Hondo from Mujinazaka thinks that he means that he wants to be the number 1 ace maybe. We then see the team manager Kaori, who thinks that it's sure Bokuto for you, and that with a single statement, he confused everyone in the entire gymnasium, which couldn't be more true. After that, the teams bow to each other and thank each other for the upcoming game. The Karasuno players overhear this, and Yamaguchi says that it sounds like the Fukurodani game is starting. Hinata looks over right away and wonders if his master's game is starting. We then see Hinata doing whatever he is doing, and Yaki thinks that he is torn between the desire to watch and the need to warm up. Yamaguchi then tells Hinata to zip back and forth as fast as he wants, but that he is still not going to manage to do both. After that, we see Fukurodani's coach, Yamiji, who says that going into this game, most folks are probably thinking that Bokuto and Kiryu are the only ones worth paying attention to, saying that the rest of them, though, better go out there thinking, "I'm going to play so hard, nobody gives Bokuto a second glance," asking them if they have got it, and they then scream that they understand, and Bokuto just asks them if this is a challenge, and if they are on. We then hear the commentators, who say that there's the whistle, they are underway, and Mujinazaka is up first, their setter. Usuri starts them off with the serve. After that, he says, "Here he goes," as he sends it away. We see Konoha getting the ball easily and passing it to their setter. We then see Akaashi, obviously, who thinks that Bokuto is in better shape than he has ever seen him, and that the best move is to put it up for him, taking advantage of his good mood while it lasts, and giving the team a shot of momentum. But while he would normally do that, this is nationals, and Mujinazaka is almost certainly watching for exactly that. Instead, let him use this opportunity to catch them by surprise, and so he gets the ball to Onaga instead of, well, Bokuto. But surprisingly, as Onaga is about to smash the ball down, we see 3 of the Mujinazaka players coming to stop him and making a committed block. Komi tried to save them, but it didn't work out, as the ball went over to Fukurodani's side instead. We then see Usuri, who is super ecstatic as he tells his team good job as they got the first point on the board. We then see Onaga apologizing, and everyone starts to laugh at him. But moving on, we see Akaashi, who apologizes as well, saying that he got carried away and overthought things. Bokuto tells him that when he saw him go over to the center, it hit him why, and he was like, I get that. He then starts to get carried away with the looks of it as he says that you can really tell they are in the quarterfinals of nationals. After that, we see Usuri with his second serve, and it's going to Fukurodani's side. However, it goes out of bounds, and Usuri apologizes because of it. After him, it's Onaga who has the serve, and this time Kiryu gets it. The ball then goes over to Usuri, who, without any hesitation, knows how to set it too as he calls out to Kiryu. We see the Fukurodani players getting ready, but Kiryu then jumps into the air, and in an instant, he slams down the ball on their side. The commentators explained that Kiryu scored and that it was a triple block, but he still didn't even care, saying that this is what it looks like to be one of the nation's best aces. We then see Fukurodani's coach, who tells them to cool it and focus on timing. We then move over to Kenma, who asks if Mujinazaka's setter is famous, but Kuru says that he has no idea and that he hasn't heard of him. With that, we then see Kiryu getting down another unbelievable smash as he sends it right at Saruki, who is unable to receive it, and gives them yet another point. We then once again move back to Kenma, who says that their buzzcut guy definitely looks and acts like the typical power hitter, but now that he really looks, it turns out he's kind of good at jumping as well. Kuru adds on and says that he hears that Mujinazaka puts a lot of emphasis on the weight training side of their program. Kenma then adds in that he has got a funny swing on top of that, asking if it's just him or if he does lean hard to the left when he's hitting. After that, Yamamoto joins the conversation and says that the thing about Kiryu's swing is that he concentrates on getting as much of his body weight into the hit as he can. Kuru says that he is right and that he is a standard power hitter. Rather than going for ball placement and accurate shots, he's more of the kind of guy to smash it through blocks and receivers. Kenma says that he's one of the top 3 aces in the nation, and he's a power hitter, explaining that trying to dig one of his hits will take your arms off, literally. Kuru then says height and strength, and that by just using those 2 words to describe the same guy is scary enough. But he thinks that in Kiryu's case, there's more to him than just that. And with that, we get into a flashback to Kiryu in his 2nd year in middle school. They are in some sort of tournament, and someone says that it's awesome and that they have never made it to round 2 before. They say that it's all thanks to Kiryu and that all of the other guys flinch whenever he goes up to hit it. Kiryu smiles and tells them not to worry and that they will win this whole thing in straight sets and that he will carry them there. After that, we see most of them sleeping, but not Kiryu, as he is looking at a match on his iPad. Just then, someone comes by and tells him that he better sleep or he won't make it through tomorrow. Kiryu tells him to give him a few more minutes and thinks that he can't let him know that he is too antsy to sleep. The guy then tells him that it will be fine and that everyone knows that Kiryu is the best middle school ace in the whole nation. But we then see the Miya twins, and Atsumu says that it's the real Ushiwaka in the flesh and that he has an aura to him. We then see Kiryu behind them, and he thinks that when they played, both he and Ushiwaka got most of the hits and had the other team's blockers in their faces all game, which we can see here as the 2 of them were going ham. But then, when it came down to the most brutal and important moment, Kiryu knew that he had to smash it, but for some reason, he couldn't do it. He thinks that when Ushiwaka stood on the edge, he still was the ace, and he stayed the ace to the end, but he couldn't do it. We then see his teammate telling him that they leaned on him too hard and that they put too much on his shoulders. He stands before Kiryu and apologizes over and over again. However, in his head, Kiryu just wonders what he is apologizing for and telling him to stop. He then speaks up and tells his teammate that he will do it all. He will call for every ball and that he will smash every hit just so that they will stop apologizing. After that, we get back to the game where we see Kiryu smashing the ball down, but it gets blocked. Luckily, Usuri is there to save it, and the ball then once again goes to Kiryu, who thinks that it's low this time. And as Kenma sees this, he thinks that Kiryu is going for a one-step approach, and with that, he smashes the ball right at Fukurodani, and they can't do anything to stop it, so they lose that point. The commentators then call him a curveball slugger. They continue and say that calling him a slugger might give the impression of someone who simply smashes the ball with little regard for nuance. But Kiryu is actually a very skilled and deft hitter. When the ball comes at you from behind, when it's too close or too far from the net, these sets are by no means easy to hit at all, let alone turn into scores. But Kiryu not only hits them, he can reliably nail them with nearly his full strength. On another note, a standard hitter's approach will typically be 2 or 3 steps, but for that last hit, Kiryu switched his up to a quick 1-step approach at the last second, making his own jump lower to match the low set, shanked balls that most teams would have trouble just getting over the net, and poor sets where, if you managed to hit the ball, you'd almost surely be blocked. It's insufficient sets like that where Kiryu works his magic, quickly analyzing and adjusting to the ball, and then using his strength to forcibly take a point they otherwise would have lost. Kiryu's playstyle is a masterful combination of those two seemingly contradictory skills. The commentators end it by saying that he would not recommend attempting to mimic that style. However, with that, we then see the ball in the air before Fukurodani tries to slam it down. But someone on the Mujinazaka team catches it and starts their follow-up, which gets to Usuri, who sends it to Kiryu. As the best, Kiryu starts to jump up to the ball. The commentators are at it again as they say that speaking of power, the strength to jump adequately high enough with only a 1-step approach and the ability to hit powerfully without relying solely on arm strength is a testament to how much Kiryu has built up his core and lower body. Kiryu then thinks back to himself crying when he said that he would smash every hit, and he then sends it towards the Fukurodani court. It's heading right to Bokuto, who thinks that he can't dig it, but he needs to act quickly, so he bounces it off his chest, which leaves everyone completely stunned. Meanwhile, Bokuto screams that it was a good save, and yes, he did in fact say that to himself. The commentators can't believe it, as they wonder what on earth just happened, as Bokuto passed Kiryu's spike with a chest of all things. After that, the ball goes to one of the Fukurodani players, who smashes it down. We then see that the scores are 11 to Mujinazaka and 10 to Fukurodani. We then see Karasuno on the side, and Asahi says that he guesses that they should expect as much from Hinata's teacher. Hinata scratches his head and says that it's not like he learned it from him directly though. We then see Kageyama, who explains that in the Runt's case, it was more him getting lucky and being in the right place at the same time to let the ball bounce off him. Bokuto, however, made a conscious decision to position himself for a proper chester. Hinata then just tells him that he doesn't need to be that eloquent about an insult, which is kind of funny. Daichi then comes by and says that he can guarantee them that Bokuto was panicking mentally. We then move back to the game where we see a ton of people praising Bokuto, but just then, we see Kiryu getting yet another point for the team, and that makes everyone around them go silent. Moving on, we see Kiryu on the serve, and amazingly, he is super insane at it, as he sends the ball perfectly and makes a service ace, explaining that he aimed that one squarely at Bokuto. The text then says that they don't care what folks say about them. They don't compare themselves to other players. It's almost like they don't realize those kinds of thoughts even exist in the first place. All they want to think about is playing volleyball, and it looks like it was referred to Kiryu Bokuto as well as Ushiwaka. We then see Kiryu doing his second serve, and in his head, he says that he isn't going to let Bokuto one-up him forever. However, we then see Bokuto trying his best to save the serve from Kiryu, and this time it gets on his hands, but still it goes out of bounds. And with that, Mujinazaka has racked up a 4-point lead. We then see Mami telling Kiryu that his servings are on fire today, and he just scratches his head. After that, we move to Kuru, who, in his head, says that Bokuto not only has to deal with blockers buzzing in his face the whole time he's in the front row, but as soon as he rotates into the back, the servers start picking on him. The better the team, the stronger and more accurate the serving, and the more consistently they aim at you, the higher the pressure builds. We then move back to the game where Kiryu's third serve went out of bounds, giving Fukurodani the point. Kuru then looks straight at Bokuto and tells him not to let them break him. With that, we see yet another try from Mujinazaka as they try to score a point, but get blocked. With that, Konoha gets the ball and gives it right to Bokuto, and he sees the perfect angle. But as Bokuto shoots it down, Unan actually managed to touch the ball and send it back to their side of the court, which leaves Bokuto was speechless. We then see Unan shaking hands with Kiryu, and the commentators say that Unan is one of Mujinazaka's twin towers of blocking, and that he and other starting players, Mami and he, are all 6 feet, 3 third years, and together they form a key component in their team's formidable defense. We then see Unan, from the looks of it, teasing Mami a bit, but saying it with sign language, and he tells Mami that he has 0 blocks this game, which gets him super mad, and this was super funny. Anyway, moving back to Kenma, who says that from what he can tell, Mujinazaka is constantly positioning one of the middle blockers wide over in the lane for the line. Kiryu is silent before he looks at Bokuto and agrees as he says that it's probably a deliberate anti-Bokuto tactic. Kenma then continues and says that it's understandable and that Bokuto has been killing it with his line shots both yesterday and today. After that, we see Usuri serving the ball, and Onaga gets it before he gives it over to Akaashi, who screams for Bokuto. While that is going on, we once again move to Kuro, who says that the thing about Mujinazaka's anti-Bokuto defense is that while they have someone watching the line shot the whole time, they're not just blocking. We then see Bokuto trying to snatch away a point, but his shot ends up getting catched. With that, Kuro says that they're pushing Bokuto to hit towards the middle right, where their floor defense is waiting. With that, Mujinazaka gets on the offense, as they right away score another point, and that leaves them with an even bigger point gap, as they now have 5 more points. We then see Usuri going for his second serve, and this time, luckily, we have Sarukui, who is there to save it. Hinata praises it, and Daichi thinks that he made that look easy, but it took skill to make that bump. Anyway, the ball then goes to Akaashi, and he sees Bokuto going on his side, but still, he tries to fool the Mujinazaka players by doing a dump. However, surprisingly, Usuri screams right then and there that he is going for a dump, so the Mujinazaka players manage to counter it and get it over at Fukurodani's court right away. Akaashi can't believe anything. Meanwhile, Usuri smiles and says that he knew it, and he looks super happy. With that, we get into a flashback to Akaashi, as he says that in middle school, he worked as hard as he could and did everything he was told. He played in a way that would upset the fewest of his teammates and coaches. He didn't particularly question it, as he didn't particularly like or dislike volleyball either. After that, we see someone asking him which high school he is going to. Akaashi says that he is probably going to Fukurodani or Suzumeoka. The guy tells him to just go with Fukurodani, before asking if he wants to go to a high school city tournament today. The two of them go there, but while going there, Akaashi thinks that in the back of his mind, he always thought he was a star player. But just then, he came into the room and saw Bokuto playing, and he explained that today was an eye-opener and that he had never watched someone play volleyball like that from up close. After that, we see Akaashi introducing himself and telling everyone there that he played as a setter and that it's an honor to meet them. After a while, Bokuto goes to him and asks him if he minds practicing spikes with him for a bit. After that, we see Akaashi super drained as he says that it was not just for a bit. Bokuto, however, isn't tired at all, as he instead tells Akaashi that his setting is the best and that he loves the way he put the ball up. Akaashi thinks that it's actually quite a nice feeling to be complimented that directly. After that, we see Akaashi in the Fukurodani school, and Konoha comes by and tells him that if he ever wants to get away from Bokuto, he can just let him know, saying that he won't trade with him, but that he will for sure come up with excuses. Akaashi thanks him. However, he says that he is fine, and that it's actually rather fun to practice with a star player, which leaves Konoha pretty confused and shocked. After that, it looks like we see Bokuto losing a game, and he looks pretty down, but then he goes to Akaashi and tells him to come practice spikes with him for a bit, which Akaashi takes him up on right away. Akaashi then thinks that Bokuto is the kind of person who makes those around him feel like they have to answer his passion with passion of their own. Akaashi then explains that he doesn't care what anyone says, but that right now, they are the stars of the world, and we then see them giving each other high fives, and Akaashi even says that he didn't go to Fukurodani with any great purpose or goal in mind, but that at the end of the day, he is glad that he is here. We then get back into the game, where it looks like Fukurodani once again loses a point. Akaashi then, in his head, thinks that their opponent has a considerable lead, and their ace's hits don't make it through, but their ace is in perfect form, and if they could just get 1 point past them, one they'd least expect, it would change the momentum and start the counterattack. We then get to Usuri, who thinks that it's exactly what the Fukurodani players are thinking right now, and I'm not going to lie, but I'm a bit lost about what is going on right here. But at least now we move to Akaashi, who thinks that he has more than one talented hitter on his side. But he took the ball out of their hands, and the result, the opponent's point, a setter not just failing to score with a dump, but allowing the opponent to take the point instead. That is an unforgivable sin. He wonders to himself what he is doing, and that he needs to calm down, as he won't allow this to be the last game of their third-year play. Akaashi then apologizes and says that he got ahead of himself, and Komi tells him that it's fine and that they should now get the ball back. With that, we move to the bench where we have Yamamoto saying that Mujinazaka's setter totally saw that dump coming a mile away. Kenma agrees and says that not only that, but that he's pretty good at serving too, which means that it's likely he deliberately went easy with his first serve. Yamamoto isn't following at all, but Kenma explains that from the start, he bet that they figured Akaashi wouldn't go to Bokuto right away and set their blockers up over the middle ahead of time. Then they lobbed that lollipop of a serve over on purpose to make a quick set look even more attractive. So his serve was deliberate bait designed to trip Fukurodani up and crack Akaashi's spirit right from the get-go, and Kenma calls it a mean thing to do. We then see a quick flashback to Usuri, telling his teammates that if they are going to shut down Fukurodani's Bokuto, thinks that they have to do it by shutting down their setter. At the same time, he looks super hyped as he tells them that it's going perfectly. Bishin says that he guesses so, and Usuri continues and says that the dump he just tried has got to be proof that he's starting to panic. After that, he gets into his own head as he thinks that he bets that Akaashi is the traditional, by-the-book, no mistakes type of setter. But if they can make him flub up good a time or three, then he will realize that he can't lean on the same old, and then he will start to panic. And if that throws his setting out of whack, then their whole plan will have worked perfectly. With that out of the way, we once again move into the game where we see the ball going to Bokuto, who catches it, and then it heads to Akaashi, who sets it over to Onaga, and both of them think that it's low, and we can then see the ball hitting the tape. The ball then flies up, and it's a free ball, which it looks like Unan really wants. Usuri, by his side, thinks that it's a waste not to use every last inch of height your hitters can reach. Anyway, Unan then hits the ball over both Bokuto and Onaga, but luckily, Konoha manages to save the day by, well, saving the ball, and it's once again a free ball. This time, however, it's going to Bokuto, and this time around, he isn't playing around at all as he sends the ball flying down right by Usuri, which we can see from the side gets Hinata excited. We then move into Usuri's head as he thinks that it sure was intimidating. Anyway, moving on, the ball is once again on Fukurodani's side, and yet again it's heading to Bokuto. This time, Mujinazaka is stacking the block against Bokuto, but Bokuto, as he is flying up, just thinks that they are begging for a cross shot, thinking that they can then eat his uppercut shot, which we sure see is what happens as Bokuto gets the ball right down at the court. While everyone is super confused and losing their minds, Bokuto speaks up and says that these last 3 years, he has been the team's ace, and that it's all thanks to them. But in a few days, he is going to have to say goodbye to them all, looking pretty sad, but telling them that it's about time that he became the team's ace again. With that, he starts to get super hyped up and screams for all of them to go and not to get left behind. And this makes the team's spirit super high again. Even Hinata and Tanaka can feel the fire from the side. After that, we see Bokuto once again being on fire as he gets another point down on the board with his insane attack. Mujinazaka then tries to get back at him, but Fukurodani saves the ball in the last second, and it goes up to Bokuto, who just can't stop winning as he once again scores them yet another point. And it's not just that one either, as he scores yet another one, making the scores now 20 to Mujinazaka and 17 to Fukurodani. However, trust me, we are far from over, as it's Bokuto's serve, and he makes the unbelievable as he makes a service ace. And this might be my favorite in the entire series, as it's just so clean, like he is coming with a vengeance now. We then get to the commentators who say that there's just no stopping Bokuto today. After that, we see an old guy laughing and saying that if only he could play like this every game. He continues and questions how the old saying goes, and says something about, if you haven't seen a boy for 3 days, watch him closely. And I'm not sure if this guy is high or not, but he is just saying stuff for the sake of it at this point. Anyway, we see the crowd being super hyped as they scream that they are actually catching up. After that, it's time for Bokuto's second serve, which this time Izota manages to save in the last second, and the ball then goes to Kiryu, who first has 3 blockers ahead of himself, but he gets through them. After that, we see Sarukui trying to save the ball, but he unfortunately couldn't. With that, we see Kiryu and Bokuto looking super furiously at each other, as it's only a 2-point difference now. After that, it's Izota's serve, and he jumps up and sends it away, and we actually see Bokuto, who catches it, but still it goes over to the Mujinazaka side, and Usuri quickly gets the ball to Kiryu, who hits the ball with all of his power. But luckily for us, we see Komi being there, and magically saving it from going down. Yamamoto is completely in shock by that, and Kuru says, guess they're getting infected by Bokuto's enthusiasm. With that, we see the ball, which is heading right to Akaashi. Akaashi goes to it, but while he is doing that, he tells himself not to fall behind and to keep the ball alive no matter what. After that, he puts his hands on the ball and then gives it over to Washio, who sends it right down, and everyone gets super happy. But surprisingly, it's not their point, but instead Mujinazaka's, as the referee says that they got a foul for lifting. Now lifting is when a player's hand is in contact with the ball for too long. Akaashi then apologizes to everyone, but they tell him to shake it off. But it's harder than it looks, as Akaashi is stuck in his own head. He thinks that this is bad, and he tells himself to put it behind him and that he can't let his mind keep going in this direction. It's pointless, but he can't stop, as he then thinks that if only he were like Kageyama or Atsumu. But after that, he screams at himself to stop, and it looks like he himself is shocked. And it isn't only him, as we then see the coach looking at this closely. With that, we head over to the bench again, where we see Yamamoto saying that, when nothing goes right, no matter how hard you try. Kenma agrees and says that Akaashi has been acting weird. Yamamoto tells him that nerves can get the best of anybody and says that after all, he is playing the Kiryu. Kenma asks him if he really likes him that much and if he is going to do his hair like him, but Yamamoto tells him no way. While the two of them are going on, we see Kuro, who thinks that Akaashi generally manages to stay calm, but he's also way too serious and feels responsible for everything, and that Kuro wouldn't be surprised if he's putting unnecessary pressure on himself out there. After that, Yamamoto speaks up and says that back when they were playing Karasuno, just for a second it felt like all this disappeared. The crowd, the sound, even this gym, it all kind of went away, and it felt like it was just them as them, messing around in yet another practice game. Lose, and they are done. Karasuno's got set point. None of that mattered anymore. All the nerves, all the jitters, they just kind of stopped. Yamamoto looks serious as he says that they say you're supposed to practice like it's a real game, then play games like you're in practice. He guesses this is a case of just how well he can pull that off. But still, nobody gets good games like that every day. After that, we see Bokuto telling Akaashi that if he isn't feeling good, then he can sit for a bit. We then see the coach requesting a player substitution. Akaashi is then about to walk off when he apologizes to Bokuto. Bokuto just tells him to listen. He tells him that, for God's sake, he isn't thinking. This is some kind of game they can't afford to lose, isn't it? Akaashi just right away looks up, and Bokuto thinks that he has hit the bullseye, and he then asks Akaashi if he knows something, asking him if they have ever played a game they could afford to lose. Anyway, with that, Akaashi changed out with Anahori, but then Konoha went to Bokuto, and he looks pissed. He tells Bokuto that just because he is having a great game doesn't mean that he has to be like that. But Bokuto tells him that Akaashi isn't like him, and that he's actually super mature and stuff. He's not going to get all upset and sulk over being benched for a handful of rallies. He'll get his head straight and be his old self in no time, saying with a smile as it's Akaashi that they are talking about after all. After that, we get to the new guy, Anahori. Anahori thinks that he never thought that Akaashi would get benched, but that now's his chance to show everybody what he's got. We then see Konoha thinking back to what Bokuto said, and he thinks that Bokuto says something worthwhile sometimes, but just sometimes, of course. We then move to Akaashi on the bench as he looks to break down completely, but the coach then calls out to him and he gets right up again. The coach then tells him that their banner says, "Give each play your all," asking Akaashi what they mean by that. Akaashi thinks that it means exactly what it says. Every player must give their best effort on every play. The coach says that it sounds like a musclehead kind of phrase. However, it actually has a much more rational meaning, explaining that right now they have 19 points, and that would mean that the next big thing they have to focus on is getting 20 points right. After that, we move to Washio, who is serving the ball, but Mujinazaka manages to catch it. We then see Usuri once again setting it up for Kiryu, but luckily, the three blockers from Fukurōdani manage to deflect it, and it turns into a free ball. While that is going on, we see Anahori behind a lot of big players, and he thinks about how much pressure there is. Anyway, he then sets the ball over to Sakukui, but both Hinata and Kageyama from the side sees that it's too low. This makes it so that Mujinazaka blocks the attack, and it goes back to Fukurodani's side. But somehow the ball manages to hit Anahori's hand, and by that it's still in play. This makes it so that Konoha has to act quickly, and he runs to it. Just then, Bokuto screams at him to send it to him, and we see the Mujinazaka players getting ready to block him. But as Konoha gets to the ball, he gets a super smug expression as he says that he doesn't want to, and instead gets the ball once again to Sarukui, who this time manages to get it down and gets them a point. With that, we see them celebrating, which is so wholesome. Also with that, the scores are 22 to Mujinazaka and 20 to Fukurodani. But we then move to Akaashi, who thinks that sitting here on the outside of the court, he can see so much more. He looks intense as he says that standing out there among them and playing with them, without even realizing it, he had started to think that he was actually equal to them. He looks at Bokuto and tells himself that perhaps even worse than that, he had believed that he controlled Bokuto. Akaashi then speaks out and says that it's utterly presumptuous of him. The coach just looks at him and wonders what he is talking about. Anyway, back into his brain as he thinks that he affects the flow of the game. No, that is far beyond the likes of him. Anyway, with that, we get back to the match and see both teams scoring some points. but it ends with Mujinazaka winning the first set with 25-23. Anahori looks annoyed, but Onaga tells him that he did pretty okay out there. Anahori tells him that their blockers scared the hell out of him, and Onaga just tells him that honesty is good. After that, we see the crowd being sad that Fukurodani lost the first set. We then, however, see Suguru, who says that though they were starting to pick it up at the end, if they had to drop the set, that wasn't a bad way to do it. Mika says that she understands, and Suguru then continues and says that it still doesn't change the fact that they lost though. We then get to the Fukurodani coach, who asks Akaashi if he is up for it. Akaashi is silent for a bit, before saying that when going up against stars, all he can do is what he always does, and that is to provide a steady and reliable supply. He thinks that, like in yesterday's game, like in the prelims and like during practice, he then tells the coach that he can do that much and that he is confident that he can manage, and with that, he has gotten subbed back in. We then get back to the coach talking about their banner before, and he told Akaashi that it actually has a much more rational meaning, calling it task focus, and that the end result of a game, the referee's judgments, and the actions of the opponent are things outside of any one player's control. What a player can control is their own thoughts and actions. The important things to keep in mind are what they can do next and what they should do next, telling Akaashi to focus on the play in front of him. With that, we see Fukurodani serving the ball, but Kiryu manages to save it, and they try to win a point right away, but we see Konoha managing to save it. However, he notices that it's long and screams for someone to follow up. We then see that it is Akaashi who is going to it. He thinks that Kageyama probably could have set this, but he needs to forget about envy and forget the admiration, as those have no place here in the middle of a game. After that, we see Akaashi hitting the ball right in the blocker's hands and making a rebound. With that, he then looks at Konoha and asks for easy-to-set passes, and Konoha thinks that he is on it. We even see Kageyama from the side, who says that it was smooth. Anyway, Konoha then gets it to Akaashi, and he pretends to set it to Onaga, but in reality, it's of course going to Bokuto, who, while he is in the air, thinks that it's perfect. After that, he hits the ball right into Mujinazaka's court. When he gets back on the ground, he has a huge smile as he tells Akaashi that his sets are the best, and Akaashi just thanks him. After that, we see Akaashi thinking that if less than 10 seconds pass between a point and the next serve, there's no time to waste regretting earlier mistakes or lamenting the current score. He takes a deep breath as he thinks that analyzing the opponent's present rotation and preparing for how they might attack them, only thinking about what he can and should be doing. Anyway, with that, we head back, and we see Azota smashing the ball down, which Fukurodani later receives. And this time it's Konoha who goes on the attack as he tries to dink the ball down on their side, but still, Kiryu manages to catch it. With that, Akaashi thinks that Kiryu is contained and that they can't attack from the left, and that given those parameters, the most likely play they'll choose is over the middle, which we can see is true, and Fukurodani manages to deflect it. Kuro from the side thinks that with Washio blocking the middle and Bokuto coming in from the left, there is only one place left to go with the ball, and Akaashi was there waiting, calling it some disgustingly effective defense. After that, we move back as Washio has the ball and smashes it down on Mujinazaka's court, but still their Libero Bishin manages to save it. But unfortunately, it still doesn't end well for them, as Bokuto is then there and gives them the finishing blow, which gets not only him, but also the crowd super hyped. After that, however, it's Bokuto's serve, and the whole crowd is now screaming his name, which leaves Mika a bit shocked and confused. We then see Suguru, who thinks that they're clapping a beat for his serve. That's exactly what Inarizaki's marching band did to mess with Karasuno's serving, wondering why they would do that for a team that they are cheering for. We then see Akaashi thinking that he really wishes that they don't do that for him. But even then for Bokuto, any cheering at all will have him riding high, which we clearly see as Bokuto, as he throws the ball up, thinks that the whole world is cheering him on, and with all of that in his mind, he goes to serve an absolutely insane serve as it's a serving ace, and with that, they also get to set point. The commentators say that it looks like more than just Fukurodani's cheering squad is getting in on the act, and that it's as if the entire crowd has become Fukurodani fans. With that, we get over to Bokuto's second serve, which is yet another nasty one. But this Izoda is the one to save it. The ball goes to Usuri, who then obviously sets it over to Kiryu. Kiryu uses all of his power to try to smash the ball, but surprisingly, he gets blocked by Fukurodani. And with that, Fukurodani wins the second set, as they are now 1-1 in sets. We then see Mami saying that here, they figured Fukurodani was a one-man show, but they're throwing their middle at them a lot too, and ask if they think that they should drop their anti-Bokuto blocking scheme for a bit and see what happens. But then the coach Kuzuri comes by and calls him a moron, telling him that part of their job is to make them lean on their ace even when they don't want to. She looks serious as she tells them that the best defense is a good offense. Hondo says that you still just listen to them. The whole crowd's cheering for Fukurodani. Just then, Kiryu speaks up and says that he sees it. He says to have no fear and no jitters and just go out there and do what you do, explaining that the greatest have fun, and when you're having fun, you are the greatest. Both Hondo and Izota look at him, lost, but Kuzuri thinks that she figured that Bokuto would be bad news for Kiryu, and that he doesn't know how to react to him. But just then, Mami screams that he knows what he's saying. He then continues and says that in any case, it's too bad, but you won't ever be cute no matter how you try, which is a bit random, but sure. But after that, he looks serious as he says that it comes out the other end of a lot of hard work and training, and they know that Kiryu has already put in all that work. After that, he and Unan start to argue when Kiryu looks at them and tells them that they are really strong. We then move into Kiryu's brain as he says that Bokuto scares him. Playing against guys like him makes it all the more obvious how small a man he really is. So many things scare him that don't seem to bother him. His teammates hyping him up, all the cheers and expectations of the crowd. Somehow, that just feels like more and more pressure to perform. After that, he suddenly starts to laugh and smile as he thinks, what's a little nobody like him doing, worrying about trying to perform like he is some big star. After that, we see that the game is back on and Usuri passes the ball right to Kiryu. Kiryu is still in his head and thinks that he has no confidence in his skills whatsoever, but he is pretty confident that he has been blessed with great teammates. They know what they are talking about, so if they're going to say all that about him, then instead of tucking his tail and running, he will let it go to his head, and with that, we see Kiryu smashing the ball right through the Fukurodani players and getting them the first point. With that, however, we move into a flashback to Bokuto, getting told to think about what he has to do to have fun, not what would be easiest, but what's the most fun. We then see all of his team training, and Bokuto tells them to pick up the pace. They all say that he sure is fired up and that it gets intense, and that they should take a shortcut. Then we see Bokuto looking back and asking them to do 3 more laps. He is unable to see anyone else as he is alone, but he doesn't seem to dwell on it for long as he then just runs ahead by himself. With that, we move back into the game, and it looks like Bokuto hit the tape with his ball. We also see that the scores are now 12-12. Kenma and Kuru see this and say that Bokuto was just getting going as well. We then get to the main man. Bokuto breathes out and says that he sure is tired and asks, who knew that volleyball could be tiring? Kiryu then says that it sounds like they are tired and that it means that it's time for them to go on the attack, and they all agree. With that, we see Kiryu punching it straight through a triple block, which is completely mind-blowing. A no-name coach says that Kiryu has been in top form all game, and Kuzuri agrees before thinking that this game forced him to come face-to-face with the kind of player he just can't handle, and that she guesses that it helped him finally get over it. But not only that, as a part of him is probably getting caught up in his momentum as well. With that, we see Bokuto, who now has the ball and is going to hit it. Kuru from the side thinks that it's a hard-to-hit emergency set coming from behind him, with a triple block looming in front, and that they have got him good, which is exactly what happens as we see Bokuto getting blocked, or did he? As the commentators say, he aimed that quite nicely at Mujinazaka's blockers, and it was a rebound, and with that, Bokuto screams out for one more. We then move yet again back to a flashback, where we see Bokuto asking Akaashi what he just did. Akaashi asks if he means his attempted rebound. He says that the ball was in a difficult place, so he thought he might reset and try again, but that he messed it up. Bokuto, however, says that it sounds cool and asks him to teach him how to do it. Akaashi, however, just thinks that Bokuto is strange. At a glance, he seems like a shallow person, interested only in flashy plays and bored by fussy details. Yet there he was, going out of his way to be curious about what a rookie backup had done on a busted play. Akaashi then tells Bokuto that as he says that he is surprised, telling him that rebounds seem much too plain to draw in his interest, explaining that from what he can tell, he likes to do whatever grabs the most attention. His thought process is generally, gimme the ball so I can smash it, and gimme the triple block. Sarukui adds in that for a guy who seems polite and restrained all the time, Akaashi's blunt as a hammer to the face. Bokuto then speaks up and tells them to think about what's fun and not what's easy. He explains that his old coach from back in his junior league days harped on that all the time. He never really liked having to do things exactly as he was told, but that just kinda made sense to him. He looks determined as he says that getting blocked is no fun, botching digs is no fun, and missing serves is no fun, and also getting tired is of course no fun. He wants to score every time. He want to dig every ball and win every game. Konoha then says that it sure would be fun to win every game. Akaashi just thinks before saying that. He would think it's close to impossible to win every time. Bokuto just tells him that he doesn't need to be that conscientious. He then thinks that having fun seems like it should be a simple thing. But the way Bokuto said it made it sound like a difficult and arduous task. With that, we head straight back into the match, where we see Akaashi setting up the ball once again for Bokuto. We then see Yuki from the side thinking that Bokuto thinks that he will score, not that he wants to or hopes to, but that he will. With that, we then see Bokuto doing a devious dink over the net, which leaves everyone really shocked. And we then see Bokuto and everyone around him looking super cool as they celebrate. The commentators say that even though they are in the final set of a long and hard-fought game, Bokuto is keeping his wits about him, saying that it was a very clever move that was very well timed. From a rebound to an unexpected dink for a score, that was a well-played rally. We then see Fukurodani leading with 1 point, and under that it's Kiryu, who thinks that he flat out said that he's bushed, but there he is still playing around. With that, however, it's Bokuto's time to serve. Both he and Kiryu look at each other super intensely before Bokuto sends away the serve. Izota, together with Bishin, manages to save it, and it then goes to Hondo, who tries to get it to Kiryu. Kenma, however, thinks that it's bumped and that it's a free ball for Fukurodani, but he quickly gets surprised as Kiryu goes to hit it. Kiryu thinks back to how much it hurt, how hard it was, and how scared he was, the fear of losing and other people's expectations. But he then tells himself to forget all that, as he has no time to think about that now. He is too busy trying to keep up with Bokuto and too busy playing volleyball. And with that, we see him sending an insane spike to the other side, which Komi magically manages to save. Kuru thinks that when Bokuto's riding really high, sometimes that infects the guys around him and they all start stepping up too. Both opponents, but also, of course, teammates. We then see the ball going to Akaashi, who sends it to Sarukui, who completely buries it down on Mujinazaka's court. After that, Mujinazaka decides to take a timeout. Their coach tells them that Bokuto's serves are nasty and that there are no two ways about that, but if they can get them in the air, then they can do something about it. Kiryu then says that if they aren't pretty, then just send them to him and he will nail them. The coach then thinks to herself that even aces are only humans and they have off days. When that happens, you just have to find who is having a good day. Learning how to pick out who's the star of the day is important. That's something she tries to hammer home to her setters. But today, it looks like Kiryu is doing just fine. We then get to the Fukurodani side, where they are sure hyped. After that, they compliment each other for a bit before Bokuto says that Akaashi sure put a lot of pressure on a guy, saying that he is like, this is as far as he goes, and he did his best. Now what about you? Akaashi looks at him and says that he can only do what he can do, nothing more. Bokuto says that he understands, but giving 100% of yourself in a game is hard, and not everyone can pull it off. With that, the timeout is over, and the crowd is right away back to screaming Bokuto's name over and over again. As we then see that he is the one serving, we see the Mujinazaka players getting ready for it, and Bokuto then throws the ball up before just lightly hitting the ball so that it just barely goes over. This leaves everyone completely shocked, but somehow Bishin manages to get to it, but that makes the ball go over to Fukurodani, and Washio then seals the deal as he buries it. The commentators explain that Bokuto saw that Mujinazaka's defenders had backed up one step too far and suckered them, dropping his serve just over the net. With that, we see that Fukurodani is now leading with 3 whole points, and right after that, it's once again Bokuto's serve. He sends a killer serve, which this time gets blocked by Izota. The ball goes to Usuri, and just then, Kiryu comes rushing right to him. But instead of passing him, he makes a drop, and just sends the ball down over to the Fukurodani's side of the court, which also leaves everyone completely mind-blown. We then see Kiryu complimenting him. Usuri explains that his dump only worked because he took advantage of all the attention they were paying to him, saying that it would be no overstatement to say that he was the one who scored that dump. But Kiryu just tells him that it would be a really big overstatement. After that, we see that it's Kiryu's time to serve, and the Fukurodani players sure are ready for it. We then also see Kuru, who thinks that strong serves on both sides are coming up, only a 2-point gap and not too big to overcome, wondering who will walk away with the game and who will let it slip, thinking that this is going to decide it. After that, Kiryu wastes no time as he sends a brutal serve, which somehow Bokuto magically manages to save. We then see the ball getting to Akaashi, who wonders who he should use, and that he can entrust the ball to anyone. But then, out of nowhere, behind him, he sees that Bokuto is also making an approach, even though he just made a full back roll just now. Kenma thinks that it sure is some dedication to attacking. Just then, we move to Bokuto's head, who says that it's not easy to give your full 100% during a game, but from Akaashi he sure wants his 120%. And after that, we see Akaashi throwing the ball back to Bokuto, who just in the last second manages to touch the ball and send it right over. However, surprisingly, Kiryu is now there to save the ball. Everyone's eyes are now glued to the ball as it's heading over to Fukurodani's side. But then the wildest thing happens as the ball lands outside, and that gives Fukurodani the point, which they make sure to celebrate, which they should by all means. After that, the rounds go by rapidly, as we see all of them getting points and points before it comes down to the Fukurodani set and game point. We see Usuri serving the ball over to the other side, which Konoha saves. It then goes over to Akaashi, who gets it over to Onaga, and we clearly see Kiryu having his eyes completely lost on the ball. But sadly it doesn't matter, as the ball goes right into Mujinazaka's court and gives Fukurodani the set, which also makes them win the match. And they all go to huddle up after that, as they should. After that, we of course see them thanking each other for the game, and as Kiryu and Bokuto are shaking hands, Kiryu tells him that for his last tournament in high school, he is glad that he got to play against him. Bokuto then grips his hand extremely hard as he tells him that it's totally awesome how he hits just about any ball, but from now on, he thinks that he should tell all the other guys who aren't the setter to step up and set better for him. Even if it's asking too much, he should still do it. Kiryu is first shocked, but he then says that Bokuto sure has a point. Bokuto then runs off, and Kiryu thinks that he is always looking dead ahead and nowhere else. After that, we see Mami, who says that if they had just gotten the rotations around to his turn, then he would have caught up in no time. Unan then teases him about having the fewest blocks out of anyone, and we then see both of them starting to cry. We then move on to Usuri, who calls out to Kiryu. He tells Kiryu that he is the ace, and he gets that setting the ball for him a lot, and leaning on him like that puts a big burden on his shoulders. In some games he is getting hounded by the other team like nobody's business, and he still puts it up for him. Usuri starts to drop tears after tears, as he continues and says that he gets all of that, but if he put that ball for him, it's because he wants to. Kiryu tells him that everybody's expectations had him scared, but today he learned something. Seeing that ball go up for him is what pushed him to give his best. Kiryu, with a smile, tells him that he is all really good, and that next year they need to make sure they get to carry Mikan-sensei off the court on their shoulders. With that, we leave their side and see Akaashi alone. He thinks that it terrified him, thinking that thought. It wasn't likely he would be the sole cause of their loss. It wasn't unthinkable that his failures would be the push that started the slide downhill. Just then, Bokuto comes by and calls out to him, asking if he is reflecting on the game. Bokuto then sits down beside him and tells him that he rebounded really well there at the end, and that he was totally flailing like a rookie at the start though. Akaashi explains that he allowed himself to get distracted by unnecessary thoughts. Bokuto then says that he knows what he did, and that's great because he now knows how to fix it the next time. Akaashi, with tears in his eyes, says yes. Akaashi then says that Bokuto said that the Karasuno vs Nekoma game greatly affected him, right? Bokuto tells him that it sure got him hyped. Akaashi then says that it's alright when it's a good game, because it affects him in a good way. But what if the game they watched beforehand was sloppy? What then? He tells Bokuto that he needs to fix that habit of letting any little thing sway him, and instead set up a solid and reliable pre-game routine that will put him in the right frame of mind every time. Bokuto just tells him, "Sure thing," with an awkward tone. Akaashi agrees and says that he is glad that it worked, but during games, they need to rely exclusively on plays that they have already tried and mastered in practice. However, Bokuto tells him that he uses what happens in games as feedback to fine-tune and improve practices, as that's what they always do, and we can then see that it really hits Akaashi right in his head. Anyway, after that, the two of them just goof around before they walk away, and instead leave us with this upcoming masterpiece as we see both Hinata and Hoshiumi looking right at each other.